Hey everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back for another exciting edition of Warp Tuesday. Thanks for joining me again for our fifth or sixth episode, I believe, that we've hit here so far. They've all been a little different. Sometimes we talk about cards, sometimes we open cards, sometimes we talk about books. Today, we are going to talk about where, and this is a hard one, where do you and where do I rank the series? And what I mean by that is not what necessarily do I think is the best Star Trek and what is the worst Star Trek, but what is like the most influential and what is the most influential, for you in particular. So I thought that would be, and it came up because my wife had asked me, what is your favorite Star Trek? And I quickly answered TNG, because that's my go-to, right? But then it started to kind of come to me that right now it's TNG and Voyager, and they're pretty neck and neck, and Deep Space Nine is right down there too, creeping up. So, and that made me kind of think, well, why is it that they are so more prolific? And it's because they are from a different time. TV was different back then than it is now. There were just more episodes per season. There were longer episodes, and with it being on broadcast television as opposed to streaming, it just the whole thing was a completely different situation. Which is why it really, honestly, is kind of a hard thing to compare. Um, the old stuff to the new stuff, because in my mind the new stuff will never, there's no way it can ever reach the impact that the original series and those first three shows had. I guess plus Enterprise as well, but I don't think that there's any way that the new shows, because of the way that they are going to be able to do that. So it's just the way it is. It's a fact of the state of streaming, right? They have to make less episodes now. They have to make shorter seasons, and because of that, you're going to get, I guess you're going to get a more focused show, right? You're going to have less filler episodes, but in my opinion, those kind of episodes, and diving deeper into side characters and that kind of things, that is what made the the 90s series so great, right? But distracted by a cat. Anyway, what I guess I wanted to talk about is how I kind of put things. So let's go over to our tier maker here. Let's see. And we've got, so down here at the bottom, we've got all the series here. Uh-oh. Oh, there we go. Reality creeping in there, right? We don't want that. So again, like I was saying here, for me, the core. Okay, so of course the core is this, right? This is the core of Star Trek. This is Star Trek. But that was just like how it was born, right? But what really gave it its heart was right here. Now I want you up front, and then you are there next. Okay, so this is what I am thinking. Is like the initial, and I'm just kind of stating the obvious here, but it's fun. Listen, let's tack Enterprise on there too, right? So this is the core of Star Trek. Okay, this. So of course, Star Trek came out in the '60s, and then was canceled, and many years later we had the revival, and with the revival we had this, like the golden era of Star Trek, right? This was, I want to say 170, 165 episodes for Next Generation, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine each, something like that. Less for Enterprise, of course. They didn't get the full 7 seasons that the others did, but because of that, because of just that wealth of episodes, right? They are forever going to be eclipsing everything else, basically, right? Because they have, um, and I mean, at this point in time, there really isn't any way for another series to even like approach that. So you can't even. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's no real direct comparison. You can't say that it's better because it was different. So now we're experiencing Star Trek in a different way. And of course, a lot of people don't like it as much as the old Trek. And again, that's because it is it is not the same format of entertainment, right? It is a television show, but now, let's say, all right, for instance, so you have Discovery. Star Trek came back with Discovery. They had, what, 10 episodes a season, and they made it for 5 seasons. So, in a span of, what was it, 6, 7 years maybe it was on the air, I forget entirely. 50 episodes or whatever. Picard, what did they have? They had 30 episodes. Lower Decks, they made it to 50 episodes. So these numbers, they just pale in comparison to, I mean, even just one of these other shows, right? And then when you think about, too, just since they had all this additional time, the the crews were so much more fleshed out, right? In Discovery you had a large bridge crew, but you didn't get any little side stories. You didn't have any focus on any of them, which affected how the whole series kind of felt as a whole, right? So, um, you have more time with the older shows, so you can have an episode that kind of develops Barclay more. You can have an episode that goes into Keiko and Miles' relationship more, and these things make the shows feel more personal, more like it's like a family, right? It's like you know these people, they're your friends, they're your family. And with the newer shows, that was, they're not able to build to that, and they won't be able to. Now with Picard, of course, they had season 1, season 2, and then with season 3 they tried to kind of bring back the like the TNG magic. And for me, they did do a little bit of that, but again, they were not left with like enough proper time, I think, to develop characters, to pursue angles that they could have. Now, I would say the Strange New Worlds, maybe I'm hoping, is going to become kind of an exception to this. I think I like what they're doing is kind of a Planet of the Month, and that kind of brings me back to the original series. And I am hoping that with this formula, they can continue on and then potentially, maybe outpace Lower Decks and then get right up there into that point of where we're having more episodes, exploring more characters, and it, kind of just goes on and on from there. So let's just bring these guys up here too. Of course, Prodigy, that was its own different thing. Prodigy, for me, it was almost like watching like a movie split up into sections, right? And I have not went back and bought I'm sure there's like a complete edition Blu-ray, but I hope and I wonder if it has the option to play back the whole thing like uninterrupted. No credits, no intro sequence. Man, that would be amazing. So, and the animated series, which I have probably not seen every episode of, I would have to admit. So I'm just kind of putting that down there with the other animation. And again, these are not like a ranking of what is best and what is worst. I just wanted to sit down and kind of talk about, I don't know, the differences, right? And maybe I've said all this stuff before, and maybe I've made this whole video before in the past. Who knows? It's entirely possible, but you know what? It's my Warp Tuesday. And look, there's reality creeping in again. Hold on. No, we want to go this way. Boom. Perfectly centered. There we go. We're back in space, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so, anyway, what am I even talking about? I'm talking about Star Trek episodes and the difference in presentation, right? So, I guess the whole point is for me, there's no comparison. There's not going to ever be like a new Star Trek show that somehow is going to be able to come back and eclipse what the 90s Trek did, right? Because that was just something that was, again, a product of its time. And it was an amazing time, too, for these kind of programs, right? Because there were so many character actors and like guest stars and fun little things that would come up and people that would appear between series and just again a very special time for TV and like they were completely taking advantage of it, right? They grabbed it and they kind of pulled everything they could out of it at the time. So now right now, like I said, things are different. We're looking at sometime soon the start of Strange New Worlds season 3, right? The good news is that they are already in production on season 4. But again, we're talking short season, maybe 10 episodes. I don't know if they've said or confirmed that, but that's going to be it. And then we'll be waiting another full year for the next thing, which will drop, and it'll be another, short 10 to 12 episodes. But we have to be all right with that because that is what we're going to get, right? And for me, I'm happy to get that. There was a long time when there was no Star Trek. There was no Star Trek. And then the 2009 movies, the movie came out, right? And kind of things came back to life, right? And now we're in this new era where things are different. We're getting a new look at new merchandise, too, that's coming up because of this kind of, I guess, the new interest in the new series now. More companies are looking at doing toys, which is awesome. So, again, it is right now. I think we are on the kind of the rise of the second golden era, right? It's kind of started with these previous shows, and I think what plays out with how Strange New Worlds keeps going and finishes, and what the next offerings bring, specifically Starfleet Academy and the unnamed comedy series that's coming around at some point, which for me, that holds a lot of potential. So, anyway, I'm just happy to be here talking about Star Trek. What are your opinions on Star Trek shows? Do you feel the same way as I do? That like it's just two different eras of television, or do you feel some way different? I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about for Warp Tuesday. Just a quick discussion on all the different series and how they kind of stack up in my mind. As always, my friends, thanks for hanging out and listening for a little bit. We're going to let go for now, and we will see you guys next time. Live long and prosper. Have a good night.